According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, every other minute in the United States, someone is seriously injured or killed as a result of an alcohol-related car crash. The purpose of my speech today is to highlight some of the risks associated with drunk driving and to persuade you to think twice before getting behind the wheel the next time you've had an alcoholic beverage. Everyone should care about this topic because, on average, 2 out of 3 people will be involved in some form of an alcohol-related crash during their lifetime. And according to the Centers for Disease Control, it is the single most frequently broken law in the United States. I have extensive knowledge on this issue through my work as a paramedic. Over the last several years, I have witnessed firsthand the devastating effects that these products can have on families, victims, as well as the community. Today I will discuss some of the problems associated with drunk driving, as well as talk about some possible solutions to those problems. But first, let's talk about some of the problems. According to the National Department of Transportation, 1/3 of all drivers who are arrested or convicted of drunk driving are repeat offenders. The repeat offender is the worst kind of drunk driver, and every day there are millions of them out there that are putting you at risk every time you drive down the street. Many of them never get caught, or they simply don't care, so they do it again and again until one day they ruin someone's life. Across the country, there are thousands of laws that are in place to try to prevent drunk driving, and they vary state by state. Some are strongly enforced and others are not, and many experts say that these repeat offenders will still get behind the wheel even if they don't have a driver's license. And in one case in Ohio, there was one gentleman who had 18 DUI convictions even though he hasn't had a driver's license in over 20 years. So it's evident that repeat drunk driving is a serious problem in the United States. Another problem is the cost associated with drunk driving. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, drunk driving costs the U.S. about $132 billion every year. This means that drunk driving costs each adult taxpayer about $500 per year. These costs range from monetary costs of enforcing laws to loss of quality of life for those affected to skyrocketing insurance premiums. Alcohol-related crashes can lead to lost productivity, high medical costs, and property damage. In fact, most of the money comes from loss of productivity from those involved who often battle debilitating injuries, sometimes for the rest of their life. Another problem of drinking and driving is the toll that it takes on America's youth. According to the Centers for Disease Control, teen alcohol use kills about 4,700 people each year. That's more than all illegal drugs combined. Teens are already at risk when they get behind the wheel sober, and car accidents are the #1 killer of teens in the United States. You add alcohol to the mix and the effects can be deadly. In fact, young drivers are 17 times more likely to be killed in a car crash when they've been drinking versus when they are sober. The reason for this is their inexperience behind the wheel, and they often overestimate their abilities. Now that we've talked about some of the problems with drunk driving, let's talk about some possible solutions. Across the country, many states are pushing for stricter laws for repeat or chronic drunk drivers. These range from larger fines and jail time to license suspension. However, it's estimated that 50 to 75% of these people will still drive even without a license. This is where technology can come into play. The ignition interlock device is a device that wires into the ignition of your car that will prevent the car from starting if the driver cannot first pass a breathalyzer test. This will prevent them from driving under the influence, and many studies have shown it to be as much as 90% effective at reducing repeat offenders. These devices are not the only solution, but they would certainly help in making our streets safer if they were mandatory. And currently there are 31 states that do not have this technology as a mandatory minimum for repeat offenders. So I urge each one of you to contact your local congressman and push him to enact stricter laws and make this a mandatory minimum for repeat drunk drivers. When it comes to the financial aspect of this issue, several states have established dedicated funding methods for controlling the costs associated with drunk driving. One example is in New York. They have what's called a Stop DWI program, which is the most successful and well known. This program sends the funds that are collected from DWI fines directly to counties to be put into enforcement, prosecution, rehab, and treatment. In fact, in recent years, the Stop DWI program has provided about $20 million annually for the state of New York. Programs like this, as well as higher taxes on alcohol or higher fines for those who are convicted of drunk driving, are just a few ways to help control the burden that is often placed on taxpayers. When it comes to preventing teenage drunk driving, most experts believe that the parents are the best tool. Tough rules and good education at home can make teens less likely to get behind the wheel or to get into the car with someone who's been drinking. And in some areas you'll see where cars will be parked in front of schools that might have had a victim of one of their classmates who might have been involved in an alcohol-related crash, and this will act as a constant reminder of the risks that are associated with it. These, in combination with other community prevention programs and organizations such as SAD, which stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions, can help to one day reduce the number of teens that are killed or injured in alcohol-related crashes. The purpose of my speech today was to persuade you to think twice before getting behind the wheel the next time you've been drinking. I have addressed some of the problems associated with drunk driving, as well as provided some possible solutions to those problems. But I'd like to leave you with one thing to think about. Based on recent surveys, on average, 1 in every 60 cars that you meet on the roadway at any given time of the day has an alcohol-impaired driver behind the wheel. So remember this the next time you're driving somewhere and you pass hundreds of cars en route to your destination.